Howdy, folks. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. It is a strange meteorological day on the Buzzcast. Russ is getting poured on in New Jersey. And, of course, as typical Buffalo, it's April 21st, and we're getting snowed on, although it's melting as we speak. So by tonight, it'll probably be all green lawns again, and it's basically like a cold rain.
Yeah.
Russ, start us off.
Nice here during the day, at least.
Yeah, start us off with the pre-show.
Yeah, so let's talk about the NFL draft. It's coming up soon.
Yes.
Eight days from it. I would think the last thing a fan would want to do is listen to your home team's broadcast of what to expect from the draft, whether it's a mock draft or whatever. Like, I would think sports fans are smarter than this now. Like, somebody sent me a link, and I'm like, I am not watching a link of a New York Jets broadcast of who they might draft. Because, for one thing, they haven't done very well in the draft. They did a lousy job in free agency. And so this draft will now determine, like, the next 3 to 5 years of this team in this new direction they're going in, because the last direction failed again, even though that's not the way it's being reported. So why in the world would I watch, Mike?
Well, okay. Yesterday I heard something like the night before the draft. ESPN Radio in New York has this. I don't know if it's a radio broadcast or a TV broadcast, but it's like let's see, Eric Mangini, Mark Sanchez, Rex Ryan, an ex-Giants general manager, Ben McAdoo, and it's like if you want like an epicenter of failure. You know, that's what you got, and they're all talking about the draft, and I'm like, why would I want to listen to them?
Yeah,
you know what if they, you know, if you Bill Parcells, if you had Tom Coughlin, if you dug up Weeb Eubank, okay, I'd listen to them because they won and because they have some layer expert. I don't want to listen to guys who all they've done is fail and talk about.
Yeah, I don't want to be unfair. Like, Rex Ryan knows defenses, right? I don't think Rex Ryan knows players and what to draft, because there are guys that Rex Ryan asked for on the Jets that were lousy, and they turned out to be lousy draft picks.
Well, and he was a defensive lineman. He was a first-round pick of the Bills when Rex Ryan was here. He was drafted out of Clemson. He went to I'm drawing a blank on his name. He went to Miami and then got traded to Houston in the last month or so. Defensive end. He had some sacks a couple years ago with the Bills. But the whole thing was Rex Ryan's son went to Clemson and saw this guy and recommended to daddy that they should draft him. So that's why he was drafted.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, that's what I mean. It's like, okay, maybe as coaches they can recognize talent, but I don't know whether, I really want to listen to them. Now, I'll tell you this. This is the thing. I'm sick and tired of mock drafts. I am sick and tired of, believe me, on the day of the draft, do I want to?
You'll look at it. Yeah.
Do I want to hear from McShay and Schefter and Kuiper and some of the other? Yes, but to see them constantly and to see these, these lists of the draft picks, and you don't even know if these teams are trading up or trading down. So it's like, how pointless is it? And it's not just ESPN. It's ESPN. It's Fox Sports. It's NFL, the NFL Network. It's have the draft in the first week of April and get the frig over with.
So here's a good example. In 2015, Rex Ryan and the Bills put in a claim on Quentin Coples, who was the failed guy I was talking about that the Jets drafted, that Ryan had this love-hate, but he liked him. He liked his talent. And they put in a claim on him, although the Dolphins got him. And Ryan's like mad at Tannenbaum for putting in the claim. And it's just, these kinds of things don't give me confidence in watching them do work that others normally would do. But now we're having former coaches and former defensive coordinators do, and they're not good at it. So, yeah, I'm not watching it. I have no interest in it. You want to know another anomaly? Right now, the the Phillies are playing and it's sunny there. 20 minutes for me.
Shaq Lawson was the first round pick I was talking about. And now, here's something as a sidelight to the draft, and that annoys me. Obviously, a lot of businesses in New York State, and I know people in Canada are like, woe is me, you can't even go out and golf, and you're complaining about the hours of restaurants in New York. But I mean, unfortunately, like we've been vaccinated, and the vaccinations have been slow in Canada. So, and hopefully it's starting to pick up there. But in Buffalo, or in New York State, Cuomo still has some sort of curfew for restaurants that they cannot stay open past 10 o'clock, at least most of them. It's a tradition for me and my friends to go to a local establishment and watch the NFL draft, get some wings, get some beer, talk about the draft, the whole thing. Problem is the Bills pick 30th, and their pick won't be until after 10 o'clock. It'll probably be closer to 10:30, maybe even closer to 11 o'clock. A friend found one place that's staying open to 11. Apparently they have some sort of restraining order against the state, and they're going to stay open to 11. But it's just, it's crap. It's like, I mean, let's just say this. I can't wait. And I'm sure everybody here can't wait until this is all over with.
I mean, look, people in Canada have it worse. I mean,
and that's the thing. I really feel for my friends up there, because I mean, they're where we were last April. I mean, it's a complete shutdown. You can't go from province to province. I've heard, like I said, they Doug Ford in Ontario originally put out a ban on people walking out in the park. Now they did that. That's fine, or doing outdoor activities, but they can't golf. And I'm like, I don't get that either. But anyway, let's start the show. Ack will be joining us any moment. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Wednesday, April 21st, 2021. I'm
Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Okay, we'll fall into my comfort zone here and start with the game late last night, the Vancouver Canucks and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Leafs lose their fifth game in a row, 6-3. They were leading 3-2 in the third period and give up 4 goals in the final 13 minutes of regulation to lose their fifth straight. Now, Russ, I watched the game. I watched it from beginning to end. You had something on.
Yeah, I just watched highlights, but I could see a play. Okay. And, of course, it could be at an end of the shift, but at this time of the year, I don't really care. How in the NBA, there's always that guy who makes that last minute, just puts the hand up when somebody's shooting a three. Yeah. That gets done in the NHL, too, and it does nothing. It really does nothing. And Justin Hall, when he was trying to do that for Niels Hoglander, was just that. He literally just sort of placed his stick there, and he was, trying to – Hoglander went wide. Hall probably doesn't have the wheels to keep up with them, but he definitely could have given more effort when trying to actually do something about the shot, because he even knew, hey, if Niels Hoglander has a one-on-one shot here, we're in trouble. Doesn't matter who the goalie is. The kid's got a shot. And I felt like he didn't give maximum effort on that at all.
Well, I don't know about maximum effort, but I do know that David Rittich was a sieve on that goal, because it went right through him like a hot knife through butter. The only thing I thought Hall beaten by Hoglander? Yes.
There's no question.
No question. He went wide. I don't know if it was end of the shift, but
I don't either.
The only thing I thought that Hall did badly, besides being, I'd say, a stride out of position, was when he reached for the shot, that maybe he was distracting Rittich from the shot, like the whole Don Cherry thing. You put your stick in front of it, you either deflect it or you're distracting the goalie, and it goes by. I thought the goal was inexcusable. I heard Kevin Woodley, who writes for NHL.com on the Hockey Central show, and was talking about the fact that goal might have been a product of what Kay Whitmore has done in terms of limiting the size of pads in the NHL, because that was something where when he drops down in the butterfly into the 5-hole, that is something that would have been covered up by like a flap on the pad, and instead it went right through him. But if there was any hesitancy of blaming Riddick for the loss, the goal that led up to Tanner Pearson was ridiculous. I mean, this was from a bad angle at the bottom of the face-off circle, a completely clean shot that went off the inside of his left skate into the goal. I mean, this is the thing. The Leafs in these two games, they didn't play perfect.
No.
They put 79 shots on Braden Holtby. Holtby played really well in both games. They got a point out of the first game. This game, they're leading 3-2 with 13 minutes left to go, and the goalie could not make a save. I mean, when it counted. And Sheldon Keefe after the game said, we've got to straighten out our goaltending. He didn't come out and say, Riddick and Civ, but he came out and said, well, Jack Campbell is going to start the next game, and we have confidence in Jack Campbell. Well, that means by saying we have confidence in Jack Campbell, he's saying we don't have confidence in Rittich right now because he played bad.
Any coach is going to say that with a new goalie who's not doing well. I mean, that's obvious. Like that's a knee jerk. But I kind of wonder, and I'm not able to get the stat. Like what was the penalty kill like for the Leafs though?
They allowed one power play goal. That was, I think, Pearson's goal in front of the net, where it was a rebound from. I can't blame Rich. It was a shot from the point, kicked out the rebound.
So only one was a power play goal.
Only one was a power play. Okay. The rest were even strength. Okay. Pearson's goal was the only power play goal.
You do wonder, and this is just look. I'm not going to blame the Leafs on this, but you do wonder, like with this third period breakdown, it's going to be dealt to the goalie, but it's clearly on the team too a little bit because they made a third period comeback. Like you had a lead. Yeah. Like you said, you had the 3-1 lead and you lost it, and they made the comeback. And so, you could say, hey, if we had a little more offense that game, then they could have overcome what Rittich did.
Well, okay, let me ask you this, because I know that observers have found this peculiar. Almost all year, I would say, up until the game on Sunday, the Leafs have had the same three pairings: Morgan Rielly with TJ Brody, Jake Muzzin with Justin Hall, and after the trade of Mikko Lehtinen, it was Dermott with Bogosian. Okay. So on Sunday, Sheldon Keefe flip-flopped his top two pairs, put Brody with Muzzin, Rielly with Hall, and then yesterday sat a healthy Travis Dermott for Rasmus Sandin. Now, I have no problem with the Sandin move because they have to get him in there. They have to get him some work because, if somebody gets hurt in the playoffs, they're going to need to put somebody in. And by the way, somebody did get hurt yesterday. Zach Bogosian tripped or stumbled and went full force into the boards, suffered an upper body injury.
Yeah.
It could have been a shoulder, could have been concussion. He's going to be out, they said, a little bit of time. So, Sandin, Ben Hutton are going to get some work, which I don't think is a bad thing because they have to get them in and let them play to be ready to play in the playoffs. But I don't know about switching up the top pairings that have worked all year.
Right.
To all of a sudden go to players that are unfamiliar. I just don't think that. I mean,
at some point in the season to do it, I would say that.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of, and tell me if you think that this is the case, and I'm talking about Sheldon Keefe shaking up his defensive pairings after playing them together all year. Now, Hall and Muzzin had a bad game a couple games ago, so maybe he thought this was something to sort of liven things up. But it's all, and also it might be, well, we may have injuries in the playoffs, and we may have to switch things up on the fly. So let me see if they can get prepared to play with different partners in the playoffs. That might be what he's doing, but right now with the division title in the balance, it's a weird time to experiment with your pairings when they're playing 20 plus minutes a night.
It is, especially when you're struggling a little bit, and you're having some troubles. They need to sort of depend on what they're going. I mean, the one thing I will say is they were so healthy in defense for a lot of the year, that that, it is kind of scary probably from his perspective to go into the playoffs and not know what else he can do. Like there comes a point at which you have to sort of see what you would do if certain scenarios, and they're safely in the playoffs. So it's not like they're going to, and I don't think that, I really don't even think that Winnipeg's going to catch them. Winnipeg's playing well, but I don't think they're going to catch them. So, I don't think Edmonton will catch them either.
Well,
so I think
they keep losing like this. I mean, Winnipeg.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, Winnipeg is it has a game in hand, and I think they're 4 points behind. Edmonton's got 2 games in hand; they're 5 points behind. It's close. I mean, they have
it's really close. There's no question about it. But I think that they, at the end, they still play each other in situations. I think that you'll still see. I think you'll see Toronto come out on top. I do think that Keith, maybe was thinking that Vancouver was a good place to do this, but There's the other thing of that when I was watching the game, I watched that whole game last night from beginning to end, the Toronto Vancouver game, and it just because I really wanted to see both those teams. And when you're watching them play, you're seeing a lot of different scenarios with Toronto playing out, and you're also seeing a situation where if you're scientifically to go about it the scientific way, you can't change all these times. You can't change everything at once and get a scientific answer as to what you're doing. You know what I mean? You could, if you change too many things, you don't know what
caused.
Right, you don't know what's affecting you.
Well, you can't point to what did well.
Right, and I think the Keith is guilty of that right now, changing too many things at once, like you're saying.
Well, and now it really he has to change things because of injury. Mikheyev is out; it's a day-to-day thing. Right. Hyman's going to be out for at least 2 weeks. Now Bogosian is out for at least a week, maybe more, longer. We don't know what exactly. So, you're going to see Ben Hutton and Rasmus Sandin, who played really well yesterday.
Oh, he did.
And you're going to see them mixed in. Felino's coming in on Thursday. They've mixed in some other guys like Adam Brooks. So, all these things, you're going to have – it's going to sort of be a mix master sort of approach. But I have to say this, it's and this is to your point, one of your texts said about, Vancouver still in this.
Yeah. Okay.
I think Vancouver had something to prove after being off for 3 weeks and operated purely on adrenaline. They got outplayed by Toronto in both those games, but Holtby kept them in it. And Toronto's failings in goal helped the Canucks win. Ray Ferraro said yesterday that he expected Vancouver basically to run out of gas. They'll run out of gas now after beating Toronto twice because of course they got out for Toronto.
They've got a couple more games with Toronto too.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is Vancouver. I wrote this to you guys too. That 6 in their next 8 games are against Ottawa. I mean, that doesn't hurt, it doesn't hurt you to be in that situation. The other 2 games are against Toronto. So the thing here is, the next 4 games in a row are against Ottawa. So if you're going to run out of gas, Ottawa, let's face it. Ottawa actually is, they're not that far out of it either. They're out of it, but they're still, they're not eliminated.
I brought up something on Sirius the other day. I do think there's a fatigue factor that happens against all these teams, and I do think even Ottawa can take advantage of that. I agree with that. I don't know if you could run out of gas against anybody this year, because I think you're going to lose, even if you do it against the worst team in your division, simply because they played you enough times to know what you're good at and what you're not good at. And that's why I did bring up the original 6 era, because when I used to interview these guys, they would all tell me how hard it was. They knew each other. It was very hard to, and I used to say, yeah, I get it, and I'd write about it, but I don't think I fully got it until now. Now we actually are seeing this.
I said the same thing last night in my text, Russ. It's I am sick of watching these teams play. I'm sick of watching these guys play each other. We got, like Mike said, we got 2 more months of it basically, which we do, because we have a month of regular season, a month of playoffs, where they're still going to have these teams playing each other. And and now we're looking at each league is like an original 7 or original 8 league, So the reality is that's even with more diversity than they had the original 6. I don't know how they could have standed it back then. Honestly, 56 games feels like too many to play when you're just playing your own division. That's the other thing I thought about today. I thought about, if we're going to do this and knowing COVID is everything, why they should have just gone for 48 and just
TV. They wanted to get as many.
Yeah, I know, but it's
more games. The more games, the less deficit of the hockey-related revenue. But
they are risking something in that, though. They are risking the fatigue of fans. There is a
Well,
everybody. There's no question.
I think that what this proves, Zach, is that this type of structure will not work. I mean, you're never going to have it again where you're playing inside your own division for 56 games. But I think that what we heard early in the season about everybody wanting an all-Canadian division, bunk. I'm sorry.
I mean, it can work, Mike, but it has to go back to like we've had before. Where you're playing your division only so many times, and you're still playing other things. I mean, you could have a Canadian division that way.
Well, no. What I think the Canadian teams want is more head-to-head matchups with other Canadian teams because of the ratings,
right?
Because of the pop. But what I'm saying is, okay, having an imbalanced schedule to allow for more than just 2 games against if it's Toronto, they play Edmonton twice, 1 home, 1 away. Okay, right. So you want 4 games instead of 2, then you're gonna have to take away games against other teams. I don't think that's fair to the Canadian teams because the Canadian teams work themselves up against other Canadian teams. That makes their schedule tougher than, say, Arizona's. No. So I mean, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah. I mean, it does, Mike, but at the same time, it's like that's what you want from divisions in general. And divisions do work themselves up against each other. I mean, the Montreal Boston and Toronto Boston rivalries are just the same. Like that's no different. I mean, you're looking at some really major rivalries. And I think that there are a few rivalries that are being born out of this that the NHL has to think about. Like, and that was going to be my blog for tomorrow. Carolina and Tampa now, that's a rivalry. And it's, and it's a really fun rivalry too. Nashville and Carolina, that's a rivalry. And I always knew Nashville and Carolina would be a rivalry because they're a rivalry in every college sport there is. Like Tennessee and North Carolina, they have great battles against each other in sports. They're right next to each other. North Carolina is, for those of you who don't know geography necessarily in the U.S., they're right next to each other. They're like, it's like Ohio and Pennsylvania, or Ottawa and Quebec. It's like they're right next to each other. So the rivalries that are being built out of this are kind of interesting, like Minnesota, Colorado, like Minnesota, Vegas. There's some good ones coming out here, and you're definitely seeing the Canadian rivalries increasing.
And maybe this alignment spurs some divisional realignment when we go back, but not complete. I don't want a division where Toronto and Buffalo don't play.
That's right, and that's the thing.
I think if you want to tweak the Atlantic, tweak the Metro, and move certain teams to maintain some of the rivalries. I mean, Florida, Tampa is a rivalry because they're both in the Atlantic. Buffalo, Toronto, Boston, Montreal, those are all rivalries. I mean, if you want to move Tampa out of the Atlantic and put them in with, you take them away from Florida, but put them in there with Carolina, I'm sure everybody in the Atlantic will be very happy to have Tampa move out of it.
Look,
I think it would make sense.
I'm going to come out and say it. I think when next year's schedule is in, when they're making it like they're making it now, and they're including Seattle, you're not going to be able to see every team in every market next year. It's not going to happen. I'm already saying it.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I do think that you're going to see the double up games continue. I think you're going to see that. They realize that it's just cheaper. It's just cheaper and it's better for the, you can also throw in, better for the environment stuff, which is absolutely 100% true.
Right,
the NHL is like, that's a convenient thing for the NHL to say, but at the end of the day, it's cheaper. And it makes more sense to be cheaper.
If you're a Connor McDavid fan in Philadelphia, you may not see him. That's just my feeling.
I think that they still got to find a way to get every team to play everybody in every city. I do think so. I mean, it gets harder with 30
people. The world's going to allow it because you can't write the schedule even in August and hope everything's cured in Canada by in a month and a half.
Well, no, you're right. I mean, the point is this Canadian division could stick around just because of that.
It could.
And that I've heard too. We could get one more year out of it. And I think that the idea would be, to get
possible,
one.
Mike. You can't.
I'm not saying it's not possible, but just think of it this way: we're talking because the NHL, the whole reason that they want to get the playoffs in and get it done by July is to go back to a regular schedule to start at the beginning of October. That means we want to play an 82-game schedule. Imagine you're playing against, if you maintain a Canadian division and you're playing an 82-game schedule, you're playing against 7 teams 11 or 12 times. It's worse than it is right now. I mean, honestly,
I know.
the NHL, I mean, the NHL needs to spur a vaccine delivery to Canada to get the damn border open by October, because they can't do this again. Not with
I get the feel there is a big feeling out there, okay, that once the Canadian now in New Jersey, for example, like this weekend, I mean, I feel so Canadian. I wish I could get my Canadian friends down here. It's like it really frustrates the heck out of me. You know, I can get anybody from Canada gets here. I can get you a shot. You know, like it's weird because we all know people now. We all know situations like our high school is giving shots to the high school students this Saturday. That's I never thought we'd get to that point.
Well, the age dropped to 40 or over in Canada, and people are getting vaccinated now. I don't know at what rate, but
it's still the whole 4 month between thing, and then 16. It's 16 now in Pennsylvania, which is like for anybody over 16 now. It's completely open. I got something from yesterday in New Jersey. I got a call from the vaccine in New Jersey that you can now go to the Atlantic City Convention Center like the 21st through the 25th, anybody, and get a shot.
I would hope that that President Biden at some point in probably May or June, realizing that we have a stockpile of 100 million vaccines, would start moving that to our friends in the north, and because the
south. I mean, I think Canada and Mexico need help.
But what I'm saying, I mean, we know that truck traffic has been consistent going back before the U.S. and Canada, but there are a lot of people who have friends, a lot of people who have residences, businesses north of the border, and it's just got to be. This has got to be a priority. Now, I have to say this, and we were just mentioning this before we started the show. The IIHF canceled the Women's World Championships in Halifax. That's on the heels of the OHL shutting their doors for the season yesterday. So this is still, this is having a big effect on things that are a month or two in the future, because they don't know where things are going in Canada.
Right. Just think about it. They're going to make the schedule in July. They're going to make it in July. And there's no way they can look forward and say everything in Canada will be okay next year. We'll just roll with our regular schedule. No way.
I would not be shocked at all if we see this division stay together, but I think that we could actually what I was thinking the NHL could do. Here's what the NHL could do. The NHL could do this. They could release half of a season schedule, Mike. Russ.
They could do that.
And then sit there and say, okay, this is the first half of the season. Second half of the season, they keep the divisions together, but that then they wouldn't have to play. They could, Canada could travel and play here. Right. I think the divisions can very much stay the same. Esmir in the chat room says he gets lucky got his vaccine through his job. Is he in Canada? Esmir, are you in Canada?
I believe Esmir is, yes.
Because this is the question I have about like American companies, getting their vaccine. Like, I don't know who we work for, Esmir, you don't have to say, but if you work for American companies, let me know.
Well, I just heard a radio personality say on the air that he got vaccinated yesterday. I know that he's close to my age, so but he's not.
I mean, it is starting to slowly get better in Canada, and what we found in America is it slowly gets better and then starts to get better quickly after that. There's a point at which like right now, I think in the last week or two, it's just accelerated in America in a big way. But it's taken a long time, So anyway, let's move on from that.
But this final thing, you might be right in terms of releasing maybe the first couple months or first schedule. And I would have a feeling that if they do that the U.S. teams would not play intra-division, that they would play against their other divisions, while the Canadian division, because of the limitations of the Canadian government, would just play inside their own division, and then in the second half, then play outside their division.
Right. I could see that. I mean, and that's just might be the reality. You have to.
Now let's talk about your favorite team, the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Can we talk about the Penguins? What a friggin' crazy game. I mean, like like I said, I mean, the Penguins obviously won the game, and last night, the Rangers lose to the Islanders. So everything bad that could have happened for my dream of the Rangers making the playoffs, which is like ridiculous. I'm saying that, but the concept of the Rangers making the playoffs is, but took a shot in the leg last night for sure. Yeah. But my gosh, that's what I'm talking about with the Penguins. Like, to give up 6 goals in the third period to the Devils.
But they still won. That's the thing.
They still won, but that's the point. Is like, hey, this is a pattern with this team that they are just so awful defensively.
Russ and I are not saying they're going to be successful in the playoffs. we don't know. I mean, the question on Tristan Jarry is, he's, remember Matt Murray played most of the playoff in the bubble, and then they went to Jarry in the last game. I mean, there's a lot of question marks there, but they're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, no, they're making the playoffs.
They're probably going to make the playoffs, and we have said that all along. But I think that
a record yesterday.
It's crazy that you could sit there and just say they're definitely going to make the playoffs. But
the first make the playoffs. The record they set yesterday was, believe it or not, they were the first team in NHL history to be outscored by 5 goals in the third period and win the game.
I know, I saw that, and this is what I'm talking about with them. I mean, now the Rangers. I watched the Rangers. I watched the first 2 periods of that game. The Rangers and the Islanders. They did get beaten up pretty well. The Islanders definitely were on top of their game. The Rangers were not. The Rangers have been very, very good lately. That was the first. Like yesterday was the first time they weren't leading in like 5 games. They had some crazy streak going that they were ahead. I mean, and it's going to happen. You're going to throw clunkers in there once in a while. It's how the Rangers react to the next 5 games. I'm curious about.
No, but it's Joe Morello's right. They were playing the Devils. They were no longer playing the Devils. It matters.
And they weren't just playing the Devils in those games.
No, it matters. And why they played Anthony Bedetto, I don't know. I think they felt like they were going to get into a fight, but he can't play defensively.
Yeah, I didn't get that either.
On the ice for almost every
Shesterkin looked a little tired too. I mean, you definitely saw the Shesterkin looking tired.
Shesterkin was tired, and we talked about their goaltending. And the other thing was Matt Martin should be suspended. Matt Martin left his feet on the hit to Trouba, and he torqued his body into him, and he didn't get suspended.
And Trouba, they say he's likely concussed, and that means
that's a big deal. Obviously,
that's a big deal.
So.
I really, I mean, obviously, where Trouba, Trouba is a major league player for them.
This is the problem that we're having now. Is finally the Phillies are having a rain delay. It wasn't raining there for the longest time. This is the problem we're having now. The big problem we're having now is when guys like that, like Matt Martin, who we know what they are going after key players, and they're successful with it, and there's no repercussions. You are going to have problems at the end of the season. There could be massive brawls. There could be all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. So
there could be. I mean, all that's possible. And I mean, I think that last night while the Rangers took a hit for sure in their chances of making it, the Canucks took a major leap forward. I mean,
let me just follow this up with Russ because maybe I'm off base here. Is this an instance where the Rangers miss Brendan Lemieux to respond to Martin?
I don't think so. I don't think that that's really the issue here. I mean, honestly, it's only because he took Trouba out of the game, because then Anthony Bedetto had to play more than he needed to play, and it killed their defensive pairings, which aren't so deep anyhow. It really is a matter of that.
I mean, that
Kreider could do something if he wanted to, like somebody else.
That's really annoying. Like Kreider, I mean.
Bedetto's a fighter. He could have just done something.
But he's also, if he's not going to score, man, at least do something. Like that's like the other thing.
His inconsistency is starting to bother people, and I get that.
But to that point, honestly, the way the game is now, I think the only way that you can combat a player like Martin. I mean, Martin is an energizer bunny. He's a big guy. He loves to hit. Yeah. He goes in and crunches players. The only way that you can answer that, unless you're going to fight him head to head, is to basically say, I'm going after Barzal. And if you
did hit Barzal once. Yeah. We did hit him at center ice, and Barzal looked for a penalty, and there wasn't. And that was after the Martin thing, I believe. So that it did happen, Mike. They did take out Barzal. And again, you don't want this as a league.
Yeah.
The reason this is happening is because there's a failure with the referees.
Yeah,
that's what's happening.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, there was. I mean, obviously, the Rangers have a tough schedule the rest of the way. They do, and they have, and they're, like I said before, they're playing better than almost any. I mean, they're playing as well as anybody in the division for sure. Over the last 20 games, they're as good as anybody. They are good enough to be in the playoffs. Whether or not they can overcome their start, is a big question. But they're good enough to be in the playoffs for sure. But they kind of seem that if we had like the bubble suddenly, like if we had like a big pandemic and they were like they added like 4 teams, into it like we did last year. We had 24 teams in the playoffs or whatever. The Rangers would be freaking dangerous. They would be absolutely dangerous if they got in there.
But here's the issue. They lost Panarin for what, 4 weeks, 5 weeks because of the.
Can I talk about that for a second?
Well,
Panarin.
that
Go ahead, continue.
That plus the Trouba injury, that they lost him for what, 7 or 8 weeks.
Right.
I mean, there were large gaps there where the Rangers were shorthanded. So that's impossible to overcome. I mean, I am appreciative of how good the Rangers have played, and how well Adam Fox has played, and all the talent that they have. They just dug themselves a hole that was too deep to dig out of.
Probably, and in all likelihood, I agree with you. I mean, I'm just not into, you guys know me. I'm not into like saying it's over until it's over. Like I will tell you right now, the Devils and the Sabres are out of the playoffs because they're out of the playoffs. I'll tell you, Ottawa has way too many teams to pass, but Ottawa's only 12 points back. But they have way too many teams to pass. Ottawa's playing well too, but Ottawa's not playing like consistently better than everybody else in their division. They're playing on the level of everybody in their division basically. It is so hard with 1 point for an overtime loss for teams to catch up. No question about it. That like just kills you all the time. And especially if you got to cross over a bunch of teams. I mean, that to me, that's the difference. I think that, there's just a lot of hockey still to be played. I mean, there's still 12 games to be played in a lot of situations. So even more, we're not as far along in the season as it feels like we are.
Yeah.
Like 17, the Canucks have 17 games to play. Like that's a lot of season.
17 games in 23 or 24 days, something like that. It's
right. But only being 9 points behind the Islanders with behind the Canadians with 4 games at hand, and then 6 of the next 8 against Vancouver. You can't tell me that they're not in it. I mean, they are absolutely in it. You don't think Vancouver's in it?
No,
not mathematically. Just looking at that.
No.
I can't say yet because this is 2 games. I can't.
Here's the other thing about like what you guys were saying before, okay, which I think is important, and I want to get back to Panarin because I know I thought that. But here's what I think is important is we're all sitting there saying Vancouver's going to hit the wall, and we all think that that's true, that they'll run out of that the adrenaline will hit, and they have the adrenaline going right now. The only difference that I will give them about that is this: they may be able to play well enough on the positive energy that they got going right now, like Dallas did when Dallas came back. Remember Dallas when they first started? Dallas didn't start right with everybody else.
4-0, and then they tanked for about.
And then they went crazy. But the question is, can you make that 4-0, 6-0, or 7-0? And because now and if Montreal keeps losing and they see that they're getting closer to the playoffs, that adrenaline can keep kicking for a little while. I'm not going to say that it's going to be great, but there is the other side of it, that they're not as tired as everybody else.
Only if Holtby and Demko reincarnate the Hamburglar. Because honestly, they got outplayed in 2 games by Toronto, and Holtby saved their ass in both games.
He did make great saves, but Toronto actually, a lot. I felt like as much as they outshot them, it didn't feel like they outshot them as much as they did.
They had really good scoring chances.
They had some good scoring chances. They did, but I'm not saying it was like all bad. But I'm just saying that it didn't. There's no question that
more in the first game than the second game, but Holtby.
Yeah.
I mean, in contrast to Rittich, who didn't make a big save when it counted, Holtby kept them in the game. And I'm just saying, if they get great goaltending, then they can play. They were basically playing a trap yesterday, playing a 1-2-2 because they don't have the energy to expend because they're still recovering from COVID. I don't know if that works. They don't have Pettersson. They don't have they don't have Demko right now. They're not going to get Pettersson back probably for the rest of the year. I mean, is it feasible? Sure, but I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop when it comes to the COVID hangover.
And it definitely could. Like that's why I can't say they're in or can't say they're not. I can't say.
I mean, the best thing, and the thing I was going to say about Panarin was, and we can't say either way, but you guys, it's definitely. I mean, you give them a better chance than you give the Rangers. The Vancouver.
The Canucks have a better chance than the Rangers. Yes.
Yeah, but and a lot of that has to do with Montreal, obviously. Yeah. The interesting thing about the Rangers and what you bring up Panarin missing all those games, he did miss a bunch of games, and points per game, he's second best in the NHL. He's right behind McDavid. He's ahead of Draisaitl at 1.49, so 1.5 points per game. That's like that's amazing. I mean, considering so when you think
that's why I said I think he's the 3rd best player in the league, and then I got
Yeah. No, I mean if the Rangers were to somehow pull off this miracle and make the playoffs, which is like I said, is a miracle, not like not Ottawa level miracle from before, but miracle. Not even Columbus miracle from before, but miracle still. But if they did pull it off, he would definitely have to like get some consideration for MVP.
Oh no, he would. I mean, if somehow they got into the playoffs, he would get that consideration. I think the factor that we're not thinking about with him was whatever was going on was clearly weighing on him too. So
right.
He left, and then it got settled, and he came back. That's a weight lifted off his shoulders too.
That's true too. Yeah, it's a really good point.
Now I have to mention this because Florida yesterday wins 5-1. Spencer Knight gets his first career victory. But I have to say, excuse me, Sam Bennett, thank you very much.
Yeah, you guys, we like that deal.
You guys all laughed at me during the trade deadline day when I was saying Sam Bennett's going to be traded. Remember this in the beginning of the day?
No. We didn't laugh. We just said we got reports that say he might not get traded. We didn't laugh.
No, you laughed. Sam Bennett's not getting traded. I want to bring up
a lot of stuff with you. It's hard.
I know, but I'm going to bring up the tape, man. People were pointing it out to me.
Bring up the tape.
It's on YouTube. Show me.
I'll find it. I'll watch 4.5 hours just so I can prove my point. Yeah, there's no question that Sam Bennett is like. He is the perfect little fit for that team. And what's interesting about it is that it's a team, it's another just a great move by Zito to grab him because the really, when you think about it, it reminds me a lot of when the Hawks got Patrick Sharp, and it's like, it's interesting. You just, and Patrick Sharp, took a little bit long, but eventually, but when I watch Bennett play, he reminds me a lot of Sharp. Well, and he also just, the way I watched the Florida Panthers all year, and what they were doing before was a very standard like dump, circle, like basically create offense by their defense, keeping it in, do a lot of the cycling and stuff like that, and very, very predictable cycling, which made them, I thought, easy to play against in a playoff series or whatever if you played them because you could really kind of figure they had a system that they played that they went with all the time, and it worked for them. What Bennett does is he throws that system sometimes into chaos because he does different things, and he really makes defenses that are trying to play the Panthers, and that's what happened last night. Like the Blue Jackets have played.
Columbus is awful. They're just awful as a team right now.
It's a shame.
The parallels between Sharp and him are a little different because Sharp was a mid-round pick for the.
But I think there's a fairness there,
and he didn't get really. I mean, the thing
Sharp's a much better looking man too.
Well, but Bennett was a top 5 pick.
I know,
but that doesn't matter. Like that's gone, Mike. Whatever.
Bennett doesn't have a hell of a mustache.
In terms of expectation, I don't think it was gone. I think that was what was sort of choking Bennett in Calgary. Is, oh my God, we wasted a 4th overall pick and he's not doing anything except in the playoffs. Patrick Sharp. I mean, he was a prospect, but I don't think he was somebody like, oh my God, Patrick Sharp. But
no, listen, Sharp, he was at his best. He was probably getting 55, 60 points.
You saw, and in Philly, Sharp was like.
A 4th-liner.
But he shouldn't have been. You knew he shouldn't have been. It was because of the coach. It was because of Hitchcock, and Hitchcock really blew that up. It's really screwed that up. But because the reality was, Sharp every once in a while would make plays that made you wonder why the hell he was on the 4th line. You did see that in Philly. You did. He scored some goals that were just phenomenal. Like he had a hell of a shot. You could see that in Philly. That was coming up. That trade, of course, is definitely one of the worst, and maybe the worst in Flyers history. So. There's no getting around that.
I don't think Bennett was bothered that he was a top pick. I think Bennett was bothered by all the coaching changes and philosophy changes.
Yeah.
I think the organization was bothered.
Yeah, sure. I think so.
I also think the pressure of being that. I do think the pressure of being that pick in Canada is different. Like,
yes,
when top picks in Canada are a really big deal. They just look at it differently in Canada. Like the draft is way more. So I think that. Yeah, I think that for him it must be really super nice to go to Florida where there's hardly anybody covering the team. They're winning. He can just step in and play hockey. Like he doesn't have to be Sam Bennett, the 5th overall pick or whatever. He can just be Sam Bennett, the player. And he's playing like that. He's playing like such. He's playing like he's having a blast. Like he's up on his skates. He's flying around, and he's so fast and so quick. And he plays that. He is of that new. Young, play fast,
24 years old. So like he could still reach whatever he's going to reach. That's the point I think people have forgotten.
The Carolina Hurricanes dream scenario right now is playing out big time because.
I wanted to bring up one more thing in Florida first.
Sure.
So having watched Spencer Knight a lot, Heck was right at the beginning. He definitely was working his way in, but. Once he started to make that great reverse clear that he does, which he does as well as any NHL goalie, he does it better than
he does. He really does. He did it a couple times. Yeah,
he's a guy that sticks with his game plan and his disciplines, and he was doing that the way he hugs the net. The way he goes across the crease, he's very cat-like with that for a guy of his size. His core strength is massive, so if you catch him down, it's going to be hard to put the puck past him. Now, we can say that, yes, he wasn't challenged enough in that game because I think that team gave up after Florida just started barraging them with goals. But I also noticed that even when what Florida did well for him, and I think it was mostly Barkov, was when winning those defensive zone faceoffs really helps a young goalie. And I think that helped too. But I still don't think this puts Spencer Knight into the season plan.
No. I don't think that's even the plan. And he doesn't look like he's ready.
It does,
yeah, it doesn't look like he's ready to be an NHL goalie yet. Like, I mean, and I'm not saying that in anything against him at all. Like, he also is the kind of kid who definitely wears his emotion on his sleeve. And you could see he got a benefit from the disallowed goal that would have made it 2-2 last night. Because it wasn't a good play by him. The goal was not a great goal by him. He really got lost. He lost the puck. But that fact that was just offsides by like a millimeter.
You can see the tools he has. He's got.
You can see the tools. You can see also the ability he has to calm things down, which is a huge thing. And also the fact that he's not, although he is an emotional goalie, he is good at getting back to where he was after.
He really is. He's analytical in his approach.
I think there are some similarities with Carter Hart. I see Carter Hart similarities with him a lot, actually.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference between he and Carter Hart is the stick handling. He's a much better stick handler.
Oh yeah, much better stick handler.
Almost always gives it away behind the net, and the
size.
Well, the size, but you can't teach that. I'm just talking about. Yeah, I'm just talking about
stick handling for sure. I think Hart might be a little bit better at anticipating the play. But it's hard to say. They're both really good. Hart's one of the best in the league at anticipating the play when he's on.
No, he's good at that.
But the Carolina Hurricanes' dream scenario is playing out right now because they beat Tampa yesterday. They have 2 games in hand on Florida and 1 on Tampa. They're in first right now. What they want to do is they want to win that division and watch Florida and Tampa kill each other in the first round, which they will, because that's 2 juggernaut teams right now, and that's a
great thing for hockey. Those teams playing each other in the first round.
They will beat the living crap out of each other, and I'll enjoy watching it. But
I still think, I don't know, Eck, I've watched some post games with Carolina. I've watched what the players say and everything. They are so insulated in we are great and we have the best defense in the league, which they might. But it still doesn't mean they can't be the next Tampa Bay Lightning and get bounced earlier.
I completely agree. I mean, Mrazek has huge issues in goal.
He wasn't spectacular. I saw at least one bad goal. I wasn't watching the whole game.
Yeah, I wasn't watching the game, but like I pointed out to you guys in the other chat, like that goal he gave up the other night, the overtime goal was a bad goal.
Yeah.
It was, it doesn't maybe look like a bad goal right away, but it really was because he lost the puck and he made that. I mean, the first thing they teach you as a goalie is you don't know where the puck is, you don't move. Right. And he moved like crazy and ended up putting the puck right back on someone's stick. I think, they are definitely up for about. I think the Toronto, the Tampa, Florida series. Yes, it's great for hockey. I think it's great for Florida. It's great for the Panthers. It's great, and I think that even though the Panthers might get knocked out in the first round after a great season, that's still a great thing to be able to compete with Florida in the playoffs for them. But I will say this, that, this team is built a lot like the Blue Jackets that gave Tampa trouble, and there is something to be said. And, Zito will be in there and saying, listen, guys, I've beaten this team. I've beaten this team in the playoffs. It's not impossible.
Here's what I'm worried about with Mrazek. You may agree with this, you may not. He is that goalie where when the team wins, his numbers are great. When they lose, though, he is not. He's anything but that. And for example, the other game when they lost in a shootout, he had an .857 save percentage.
Yeah.
There are games when they lose, there were guys like Tony Esposito is a good example. He used to lose a lot of tough games, but even in losses, he would still have like a 920 something save percentage.
Yeah.
Mrazek doesn't. Like even yesterday's game, he had a 917. Just to show you that that's where I don't want to always say he's the reason they lose, but I'm just saying he's not consistent enough for me. That's the problem.
Right. Well, that's my issue too. And also just, he's he when things go bad with him, he can really implode on the team too. Like, and that we've seen. It's happened in Detroit, happened in Philly. It hasn't yet happened in Carolina, but it can, and this it won't happen until the expectations are high, which is where they are now. So the issue is, how well he does in the playoffs is going to determine a ton for him as far as his future goes. I think that Carolina made a mistake not getting a goalie. I think that and that's for 2 years in a row.
We look stupid saying that right now because he's 5-1-2 and they're rolling. Like
then he's the best goals against in the league. But Mrazek also has like the best goals against the league.
But we won't look stupid when they lose in the playoffs because of their goaltending, which eventually they will.
But many times goals against is a team stat. Look, Cam Talbot, when he had that vaunted defense in front of him with the Rangers, had an amazing goals against too.
Well, it's 9. He's only played 9 games, so it's like the reality is like it's not like there's guys he's going against guys like Grubauer's played 34 games, so that's like, but in 9 games, his 1.6 goals against average and 939 save percentage is pretty impressive, obviously. But the weird thing about that, I was looking at this. So he has played in 9 games, and won 5, lost 1, and lost 2 in overtime. So he's really 5-3 in those games. That's kind of strange, that's like to have that goal against and be 5-3. I don't know, but guys like Jeremy Swayman are he's second in the league right now goals against average. So it's like he's only played 5 games, So it's like
Rask is making saves that Jeremy Swayman could look at and say, okay, I might be able to do that someday when games are on the line. He is not Tuukka Rask, and Tuukka Rask, as long as he's healthy, is going to be the guy.
Best goals against average of any goalie who's played 15 or more games. What do you think it is?
Probably Sorokin, or you wouldn't be looking.
It's Sorokin, yeah, sure. No, and it's funny thing about Sorokin. No, this is the thing.
Not winning the Calder.
It's funny because, here's the reality. He's kind of evened up that race for the good top goalie in that team.
For top goalie.
For top goalie on that team, like for to be, he's battling Varlamov neck and neck right now.
I think he's given them something to think about, but
his numbers are better.
Varlamov is Trotz's guy. He will start game 1 of the playoffs no matter what.
Exactly.
No, yeah.
Yes, he will. Now game 2, anything's up for grabs.
Yeah. If they lose, then maybe he. Yeah, and Varlamov plays badly, then maybe he goes away from him. But no, he's going with the experienced guy.
He's not starting Sorokin game 1 in the playoffs. No.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Sorokin these numbers he puts up wherever he plays are just crazy.
Listen, he's really good.
It's just the statistic.
He killed the Flyers the other day. He was a big reason that they did lose that game. He was terrific.
3 games against the Flyers, basically. That he stole from the Flyers. I think that it was just like that were great. Great games for him.
Yeah, this is it. Varlamov's gone after this year, and he will be somewhere else next year.
Yeah. At what point if he ends the season with like what is he now? He's 12-4. If he ends the season, with 4 losses.
Well, Varlamov's got 2 more years at $5 million, and Sorokin is exempt, so they don't have to protect.
Right. No, but I'm just saying, at what point, if he plays,
they'll leave him out there and hope that he gets taken.
If he plays 25 games, Sorokin, if he plays 25 games and has only lost 4 games and has goals against under 2, you don't think he's in the Calder talk?
He's going to come in 5th there.
Yeah.
Kaprizov,
Robertson.
He's ahead of Robinson.
He is not ahead of Robertson.
Not ahead of Robertson. He's not.
Are you kidding me? He's got 33.
Don't give goalies any credit. You guys aren't giving goalies any credit in that. And goalie, it's just like I get that he's not he's not an exciting player to watch. But
forget that. You know what it is? Are they starting Sorokin every tough game against every tough team? The answer is no.
Yeah.
He has a schedule. He is not the number 1. If he was the number 1, he might win it.
You can make a better case for Shesterkin over Sorokin because Shesterkin is the number 1 with the Rangers. His stats might not be as good, but he's the guy.
Right.
I get that.
That is a big factor. Whether it's fair or not, it's a factor.
Yeah. We'll see. Let's see what else. We got lots of, it's like, I wanted to talk real briefly. I got to go in like 5 minutes, but I wanted to talk real briefly about something, and that is the GM meetings are going on right now. And there's a virtual GM meetings. Yet they don't get to go to Boca Raton this year and play golf, which they're definitely missing. But the big discussion that I'm hearing is going on is about the Olympics, and that's what we're gonna, and that brings up, I think we should talk about this tomorrow maybe because it's a big topic.
Yeah.
But let's maybe get in tomorrow about the concept of should we or should we not be going to the Olympics based on what's happening right now.
Well,
they're
going to have to. They're going to have to pass it by the NHLPA because
for sure.
First, it has scheduling ramifications, but it also has political implications because of where the Olympics are, which is Beijing, and what's going on in China right now, and whether we don't know the uncertainty of the government stance on whether the U.S. will go to the. I mean, right now it sounds like it's on the back burner.
Can we say one thing, Mike, about this? It's not political. It's humanitarian. I mean, this is not a political issue. Like what's going on in China right now.
It's a dual issue.
Political.
It's a dual issue. I think it becomes political, but it's humanitarian first. I agree.
Yeah, genocide is not a political issue.
No. I wasn't talking. Okay, the political issue is the pandemic.
I get that.
The humanitarian
to me, that's not the reason to break up the Olympics.
But what I'm saying is, it's like I said, it's dual. It's the political issue is the pandemic and the spread of the virus. The humanitarian issue is the Uyghurs in Western China. So it's a dual issue, not just one. But there, one might be enough.
The second one is enough. I mean, what do we as a society have to? How can we just allow that to happen? It's just insane to me.
I'm going to give you the reason. You want to know the reason? I got an email yesterday or the day before, and it says NBC Universal and I forget beIN Sports showing 300 hours of the Tokyo Olympics. Right. That's what they care about. Yes. They won't even care if there's fans at this Olympics. They want to have this programming over 10 channels for 3,000 hours and sell lots of advertising.
Yes, content.
And believe me, I don't want. I feel terrible for Olympians. Like I do. I feel awful for Olympians. I want them to go to the Olympics, but the country something has to be done. Probably not involving the Olympics. Just another way has to be done. Something more has to be done to stop what's happening.
But as happened in 1980 in Moscow, one of the only ways of exacting retribution on a government that is doing things that everybody else doesn't want them to do is to do something like boycotting the Olympics, like the U.S. did with the Olympics in 1980. That was in response to the invasion of Afghanistan. What the hell did going to the Olympics have to do with the invasion of Afghanistan? Well, it was
the invasion of Afghanistan is nothing compared to what's going on in China.
Right.
So it's like to me, like this we're looking at like a Holocaust type situation, and it's just insane that this is allowed to happen.
And you said, how could this go? Well, again, the Olympics were in Berlin in 1936.
I know, but that's what I mean. Have not we learned? I mean, do not we learn from history?
No, because they're whores.
We're supposed.
The IOC are. I'm sorry. The IOC are a bunch of whores. They will go anywhere for money. That's been the case since the Olympics started. Over 100 years ago. That's just simply what they do.
Yeah. I get that. All right. Well, we'll talk more about that tomorrow after we find out what exactly is said during these meetings with the GMs.
And I'll give you one more thing. I just see a tweet right now that was sent a few days ago. CBC Olympics. After Vancouver hosted the games in 2010, let's give a bid in 2030. They're not even caring. They're caring about business.
Oh, I get that, and that's but this. I know. This is a really. I mean, it's just sickening what's happening there. I just hope that that people who are in trouble there find a way to escape it and get out somehow, because obviously no one else is helping them. All right, I don't mean to be a downer. Sorry, but let's tomorrow tonight we got lots of important games on tap, and that'll be a lot of fun to watch. Tonight we get back into it's fun. I like how they're doing with the division things. Like as far as we're playing certain divisions on certain nights. That is fun. It does give us.
Let's see if the Montreal Canadiens can keep their streak of ineptitude going.
Yeah, I mean tonight it's big games. I mean Dallas also is working their way back into this race. Dallas right now win percentage wise is
thanks to Jason Robertson.
Yeah, they're back. They're in the. I'm not saying he's not a great player.
No, you are saying that. You said that.
I did not say he's not a great player at all, did I? I just said
no, you were just like, oh yeah. I said more points, and you were like,
nobody's better than Sorokin.
Oh man! Every day we end in the same place this week. What is this week? It's like I feel like I'm like fighting an uphill battle all week.
Not yesterday because I had to drop off the show at the end.
That's true, but that was okay. I almost forgot to end the show, Mike, when you did that.
I sent you a message.
I know you did.
I'm gonna say this: the Nashville-Chicago game is an important game.
It is a very important game. The Predators have owned the Blackhawks, owned the Blackhawks this year. So we'll see what happens if they and then Montreal Edmonton is a hugely important game too.
It's an absolute must win for the Blackhawks because if they win, they're 2 points out of fourth place.
Yeah.
So they need to win.
Yeah, and
Arizona needs to win too.
And I'm going to tell you that I think this is a must win for Montreal tonight. I really do. I think that they have to stop this. They have to stop this. Like they've got 18 goals in the last 12 games or something like that. It's some crazy number like that. They have to start scoring goals.
Listen, the Heat's going to be on Ducharme soon if they start to lose playoff position because that's the big difference that they made. Other than Price being out, he's going to start coming under fire.
Russ, maybe they'll fire him and hire Claude Julien.
They won't fire him.
There are 13 games tomorrow night, guys, so that's going to be fun. Tonight's 4. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you all tomorrow. Enjoy the games.